What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sharpen the Public. As always, I'm your host, Deej, back again with Andy, here to recap and preview Week 11 and Week 12 as we are sitting here before the Monday night game, Eagles-Chiefs. Go Birds. But sitting here because it's Thanksgiving this week, thought we'd try and get the podcast out early. Andy, how was your weekend? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, man. Good to see you too. Had yet another profitable weekend. Ended up positive at plus 1.75 units after the Vikings did not win the game, but also did not cover for you. So we both ended up losing on that game. But overall, 4-3-1 over the weekend. So not too bad at all. Overall, feel like I'm kind of getting back into a groove after that 3-week funk where I was just getting murdered on everything and won 4 bets in 3 weeks, where actually gets throwing some wins in the win column. So these are good, man. I'm very excited for the Thanksgiving games. I think these are going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get into it. I think it's going to be awesome, especially off the back of this week. I had a 5-4 week. Don't know if I'll have a Monday play, which will determine whether I'm positive or not yet, because we are recording here before the Monday night game. But it felt like a lot of the games landed on the half point that was, the decision, right? The Texans was 5.5. I had fucking minus 5.5. CJ Stroud threw 3 picks within the red zone, which was pretty fucking annoying. I had the under in the Niners game, which ended at 41, and the total was 41.5. There was a lot of crazy stuff, so I'm happy to get out of it at least positive right now, despite some bad beats going not my way. But it is what it is. Positive is positive. I'm excited to sit down with you and talk about Week 12 too. It's going to be really fun. So what we're going to do here on this Thanksgiving, I guess we'll call it a special episode. I'm not going to have 2 episodes this week. We're going to recap everything that we normally do in one episode, but bring it all together here, trying to wrap it up quickly so we can get to talking about every game, because there are a lot of them in the slate. So, Andy, are you ready to hear about what happened with the public betting data just right now? Let's get into it.
Yeah, it feels like old times when I'm about to receive all this live on air, so let's go.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it.
This is how we used to do things in last year's episodes of Sharpen the Public, but let's get into it. I talked about it. I thought the public was going to have a bad week after, a really good week, a mediocre week, and now this week the public went 5-8. Andy, I called it a bad week for the public. I'm happy that I was on the right end of that. They didn't do as bad as I thought they would. Still, 5-8 is very negative for them, and happy to see a prediction go correctly for me.
Yeah, we've been calling that for a minute, so I guess the blind squirrel finds his nut every now and again, right? But I do think that is going to be something we continue to see. We've just kind of missed a little bit on when we thought it was going to be. So I don't think that just because they were bad last week that it's going to stop and flip back on. I think that we will start to see a couple of these string together.
Exactly. Kind of falling back into line with the totals, still public on the overs, went 3-6, public on the under, 3-1. A lot of the same, a lot of what we consistently see here on Sharpen the Public. 0-4 for the public, above 65%. So that's good to see that they're back to their losing ways, consistently hitting terribly when betting a lot on the over, and then really nothing crazy on the under, 3-1. Nothing really to talk about there.
Yeah, things are continuing to push that way, with the public being piss poor on the overs as well as the under continuing to do well. That was part of the reason why I was looking at playing totals on Twitter. Or I played the Chargers and Packers under because I think they had the sharp, and everyone else was on the over. So it's stuff like that I'm looking for now as we get closer to 1 o'clock, because we have so many 1 o'clock Eastern on Sundays, because we have so much data now to actually prove these general trends. And you can get a little cute with it too, like I did with Packers +3. It fell into your special 10 to 14% sharp, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit. But stuff like that is super helpful to take plays that you maybe were leaning at first and push it over the edge, which both those plays went 2-0 for me, and I was literally just telling the trends.
Yeah, it's awesome when stuff like that works out. Where that 21-7 trend ATS is now 22-7, thanks to the Packers being the only one to fall into that range and still covering. Yet the sharp differential went 4-9 ATS this week, which I did not expect. I thought they'd have a bounce back, or not even a bounce back, a continuation of how good they've been doing, because they went 11-3 ATS last week. However, 4-9 is not great. The golden rule, however, Andy, 3-2. Another positive week for the golden rule, which is awesome to see. Crazy that 5 games finally fell into that, because it feels like it's been a while. So we had the Panthers fell into it, the Bears, the Giants, the Jets, the Bucs, and the Titans. I bet the Titans, sadly, and I did
They're
have
horrible.
anything. The Bucs.
I tried to tell you that too last week. I'm done with this whole Vrabel narrative. Oh, Vrabel's a dog again. Yeah, he's a dog because they're ass. Because they're really bad.
Yeah,
they're
I was
really
disappointed
bad.
in myself. That was like a shot put one at the end while I was writing. I was like, I like this. I really like this, especially with the numbers. And it was just a bad play.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. Like I wasn't brave enough to actually go on the spread. I had the Jags teased.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can talk about when we get into each game as well. There's so much that I want to talk about. So try and roll through this quickly here. Money percentage went 4-9. Crazy to see everything do badly. And that's what I'm kind of saying, like, as I talked about at the beginning. A lot of the numbers really dependent, like where everything fell and where everything landed, really depended on the number you got. Like even the Broncos game last night was solely dependent on whether the Broncos got that 2-point conversion. And what the fuck was that 2-point conversion? Like at the end of the day, that was horrible. But so many results this week ended that way, and I think that's why we see the public lost, the money lost, the sharp differential lost, public lost in the over, money percentage went negative. All of these things were bad. Money percentage went 4-9, which is just terrible. ATS above 65%. They went 2-5, and then 2-5 again, or 2-4 below 60%. So really just bad across the board, ATS wise.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I think that's something to note as we preview Week 12
for sure. Money percentage in the over 1-3, sharp differentially over 1-1. Money percentage on the under 6-3, sharp differential on the under 8-3. A whopping 6-2 when the sharp differential on the under above 15%. And that's been absolutely killing it all year.
Yeah, unders just continue to cook. I don't know if crazy. That's necessarily a money and sharp thing. I think that's more just unders are cooking this year.
Oh, it is. Yeah, 100% it is. I mean, if we look, it's what? Wins to the over 4-10 or 4-7 yesterday with totals. So another 4-7 to the over, so 7-4 to the under. Another under week.
Yeah,
and I talked about that a lot in my Reddit post. I thought that was going to happen. I thought the public was going to do badly, and they did. So happy to see some of my predictions come true, and that what we're doing makes a little bit of sense. But that's all for the week 11 trends. I'm going to start reading off the totals to date trends. 86 and 72 for the public, 54% win percentage now, dropping from 56 to 54. Money percentage to date, 81 and 77 at 51%. And then sharp differential, 80 and 78, another 51% trend. So public still doing better, obviously, but now they're all kind of dropping. You can't just blindly tail anything.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we said was going to happen, though, because it would be extremely unusual for the public to do well the entire year. And now that they've had a successful 2023, it's going to close a little bit more bloody for them.
Yeah. The surprising thing for me is the sharp differential. Sharp differential at 80-78. Now 11 weeks into the season, you're kind of falling very far away from what they did in 2022, which was 145 and 120. Which was a 55% win percentage. So they're going to need to make a significant improvement over this next couple of weeks to hit that. And if we stay away from that, then that's something to make note of. Or if we get back to it, definitely something to make note of. I'm going to be backing it, possibly getting back to what it was. So hopefully, we can see more consistent performances from the Geico Golden Rule, those high sharps, even though they did badly this week. And then, so I said it earlier, 22 and 7 between 10 and 14% sharp differential, our best trend. When it comes to ATS, which obviously hit with the Packers, moving to totals, 36 and 53 for the public backing the over, now 7 and 18, above 70%, which is great. And then totals are on the under, 42 and 26 is the public. Anything there?
What would be your biggest ones to take away out of that?
Definitely the 7 and 18 for the overs on the public. So like when you see the public on the over above 70%, it's 7 and 18. So you obviously want to take the under, and then unders with low confidence is surprisingly doing well. 17 and 9 when the public is 54%, 53%, 52, or 51 on and under. So pretty impressive. I mean, you can add the 6 and 4. I mean, it's relatively even across the board elsewhere. It's 8 and 6 above 70%. So 17 and 9 is definitely the biggest one for the public on the under there.
Yeah, agreed. The 7 and 18 one on public over is greater than 70% too is wild, but predictable. When everyone and their mother's betting on the over, you do want to take the under. and I think that we try to shy away from that narrative a bit with this podcast, but of just fading the public. But totals kind of do fall into that category where the public on overs is not great. Not great historically, not great this season, and in large confidence, they are not just not great, they are piss poor.
Yeah, 9-20 last season, 7-18 this season for that specific number. And that's a good point for the general podcast. I mean, it's focused on providing context to all of the numbers, all of the ranges, but specifically when it comes to public betting the over specifically, they're just straight up bad and have been historically. And that's why we're seeing numbers drop significantly lower. And the average totals between 41 and 42 every week. Anyway, money percentage on the under 58 and 41 through the season. Sharp differential on the under 77 and 48, a 62% win percentage. Money percentage on the over 23 and 37, a 38% win percentage. And then the sharp differential on the over 15 and 18. Best trend there, 5-1 for the sharp differential between 15 and 19% on the over. So that's cool. But it's kind of rare, obviously, only happening 6 times in the however many games we've had throughout the season, 160-ish. And then, yeah, obviously we've been talking about this one a lot, but 44 and 20 for sharp differential between 5 and 19 on the under. Really awesome to see.
I'm pumped that we're actually like far enough along that we're able to start to make takeaways on these trends. So it's cool. It's fine. I'm glad that we're finally to this point because I feel like the first half of the season it's tough to derive like what's right, what's wrong, and what's notable and what's not.
Yeah, and that's what we getting to talk about this stuff weekly is we see how things fluctuate every day, and we can make comparisons to last year, and we have a lot more information. So there's a lot of things we can do to derive to make winning plays, and recently it's been working for us. So I'm excited to try and predict this week because we've obviously got the 3 Thanksgiving games. We've got a Black Friday game for, I don't know if this is the first time ever, but feels like
it is the first one ever. Yeah.
Yeah, first time ever. And then several other games to talk about. So, I mean, I think we should just dive into it, Andy. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm ready. These Thanksgiving games are a lot of fun. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, let's start. We've got Packers plus 7.5 in Detroit. The quintessential Thanksgiving Day game with a game in Detroit is our early one, 12:30. This is when we're getting prepared. We're eating a little bit of the appetizers, getting the first few drinks flowing. No one's starting to talk about politics at the family dinner table yet. Lions minus 7.5 at home, 75% of the bets, 86% of the money. Again, we'll preface, this is Monday. We're talking about this, so there's only 12,000 bets. But the Lions have an 11% sharp differential towards them. I kind of lean Packers, Andy, based on what's happened recently with Green Bay. I don't love the team. I don't really love the way that they're playing football. However, there are flashes. I mean, the Christian Watson touchdown in the corner of the end zone from Jordan Love looked really good. The Packers defense was actually doing a half decent job of stopping the Chargers. However, there were ample opportunities for the Chargers to win and cover that game with the dropped Keenan Allen touchdown, the Quentin Johnson drop at the end of the game. So I understand why everyone's on the Lions here. I kind of want to conversely be on the Packers, although I wouldn't say it's my favorite play of Thanksgiving. Total set at 46.5, 64% of the bets on the under, 71% of the money on the over. I kind of like the over too. And if it does become, a shootout, probably favors the Lions more.
Definitely do not want to take any unders with the Lions. They're 6-4 to the over this season. In a group of teams made up of 7 NFL teams are actually above 500 on the over this year. The rest are 500 below. So, and the Lions are one of them. So I'm definitely not going to be super fond of taking the under in this one, but it doesn't necessarily want to be on the over either. Maybe we'll see as it gets closer. I do feel like the Lions are just firing on all cylinders right now. However, I want to see them go up against like more tough opponents to actually be able to get some more takeaways. I just feel like some of these teams they've played, like when they have had the big games, they haven't been spectacular in my opinion. The Ravens game definitely comes to mind. But
they also almost just lost to the Bears. Like they were, the Bears had like a 94% chance to win that game per whatever those stupid stats were. So
and the Lions came back. Yeah.
David
Montgomery was losing his mind as if they had just won like a playoff game. But I guess it was a revenge game for him.
For him, it was, yeah, absolutely.
But Detroit is spectacular against the run. They rank in top 5, top 10 in a lot of categories like opponent yards per rush, opponent rushes per game, and opponent rush yards per game. Whereas Green Bay has not really been able to get it going. I believe Aaron Jones got hurt. I don't know if he ended up coming back into the game, but he did get hurt and went out of the game for a bit against the Chargers. So I would not look for Green Bay to run the ball much. So it really does come down to how well you think Jordan Love can throw the ball against a kind of middle-of-the-road passing defense in Detroit. I'm not all the way there yet. I did say, like, I believe that they're starting to figure it out, and that's what you said too. But I mean, maybe if people just keep slamming the Lions, then I think I might have to go Packers, because like we're looking at 7.5 right now. I see 8 on a few sports books. If this thing keeps moving, maybe we get a couple extra points on Thanksgiving Day. Just sweat it out with the Packers. But I don't have a play on this one just yet. I definitely will be betting on it, but I don't have a play.
Yeah, this is a weird one because this is similar to what we saw in the Bears-Lions game, where everyone wanted to bet the Lions, and the money was kind of on the Bears at the end of the game, or by kickoff, with 64% of the money on the Bears and a 22% sharp differential. So they fell into that. I think we're going to see a lot more money come in on the Packers as the week goes on. Divisional dog over a touchdown away, yes, and on Thanksgiving. I don't know if it'll be a pros versus Joe's game, but I think the entire public is going to be on the Lions, which we've seen happen the entire year, including this recent week. And the public was 5-0, now 5-1 betting the Lions. Are we going to see that more regress to the medium of 5-5 and 500 or what? I don't know. I like Packers, and we'll see what happens come Sunday, or now Thursday, obviously. But fun one to start off.
Yeah, I think the last thing here is just how well Montgomery and Gibbs have both looked. And Green Bay ranks in the bottom quarter of a lot of rushing stats against opponents running the ball this season. So that's what really scares me for Green Bay in this one. I think it's going to come down to if Jordan Love can actually complete some passes and do some damage through the air, and if there's any stopping Montgomery or Gibbs, which the numbers this season for the Packers defense say that that's not very likely. So yeah, I want to wait till Thursday for this one.
Yeah, it's a really tough matchup for them, but it's a great way to start off our Thanksgiving Thursday as we get ready for the worst game of the slate on Thursday. Commanders at Cowboys. Plus 11 is Washington with 46% of the bets and 71% of the money. For some reason, I mean, this is another game where the fucking Cowboys get another massive spread, and it's like, do we even want to bet it? I mean, there's a 25% sharp differential to the Commanders here. And instinctively, I like Commanders. Coming off a loss against the Giants, I know. Instinctively,
no, I just love that we're both like giving angles for the Packers and giving angles for the Commanders to start off the podcast.
You got to do what you got to do here. But yeah, I like the Commanders because I think them coming off of a divisional loss to a game in a game they should have won is a lot of motivation. I think Ron Rivera is on his last legs. He needs a decent showing, or he might get fired in the next couple of weeks. And now you're an 11-point up divisional dog. The Cowboys have just covered 2 massive spreads, 17.5 and now 10.5. You think they're going to cover 10.5 again when they're thinking about, I mean, they're probably going to win, but 11 points to a team that was just favored by 10, it just feels so wrong. And that's the state of the NFL right now.
Washington is the number 1 team in pass play percentage. They run a pass play 68% of times, and that is a testament to how much they are behind, because when you look at how they actually do when they're throwing the ball, they are getting 6.1 yards per pass, which ranks 24th, as well as 245 passing yards per game, even though 68% of their plays are a pass. I think that Dallas's passing defense is spectacular, so once the Commanders fall behind, it is going to get really gross really quick for them. However, if anything, maybe Brian Robinson can help find some success running the ball, because the Dallas rush defense is actually not as good as you would expect it to be. They're middle of the road, but again, also like when you see how much opponents are passing against them, which is 55% of the time, like it makes sense why there's not a ton of rushing data on them, because people aren't able to run the ball as much because a lot of the times they're playing from behind. So I really don't know which way I want to go on this one yet either. I do kind of like the under. I feel like the total is a little too high in this one at 48.5.
I agree.
People are betting the over, which I don't understand. So I'm going to be eyeing the under in this one. Get your mimosas ready for the first game and start pounding the red wine for this game, because that's the only way you're going to get through these especially this second one. This second game is going to be really gross. But
yeah, this is the early dinner game. They don't expect everyone to watch this one because that's why they put this one in the middle of the day.
My final fun fact about this game: Ron Rivera has been coaching for 11 years. DJ, as a head coach, how many winning seasons has he had as a head coach?
1,
3.
Wow.
So let's just keep that in mind when we talk about how this guy's got a nickname. He's got all kinds of like respect things for him. Like great dude off the field, but like he's not that good of a coach.
No,
don't let the nickname cover up the sins of the 11 years of mediocrity.
Sure. Though the one last thing I want to say is, despite the woes that the Commanders have on offense, Sam Howell is leading the league in passing yards. Let's talk about that. And I think when he has time, he actually looks like a serviceable quarterback. However, he's rushed a lot. Obviously, the offensive line has a lot of issues, and I don't know. There's a historic rate for sacks that the offensive line is letting up, and now he's got to go up against DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. So you got to hope that it's a short week for a divisional team, and that they can cover 11. I would never back the Cowboys minus 10.5, but I don't know if I'll get the Commanders here. I don't think I like them enough yet.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that Sam Howell is leading the league in passing yards, because they are leading the league in pass plays run per game at 68%. That's absurd. That is so many plays they're passes. So it's good to know that he's at least making something out of it, where he leads one leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to do something right. At the end of the day, he's hitting the ground a lot. Okay, let's move on to Niners minus 6.5, minus 7, whatever line you find in Seattle. 63% of the bets on the Niners, 82% of the money on the Niners as well. 10,000 bets in.
Do you think it is interesting that this game and the two before it all have totals above 42, when we've seen the totals be so low all season long, some of like historically low totals? And like you take just a quick scroll through all the games, I see 5-6 other games with a total higher than 42 right now. But all 3 of the Thanksgiving games all have a total higher than 42. And the only reason I say 42 is just 6 touchdowns. Like that's like the magic number too for long teasers and all of that. Like it's kind of been a mark that I've watched as like, is the total above 42 or not for a lot of these games, because it's so unusual that this season especially, but also last season, totals are trended that way. But yet we've got 3 Thanksgiving games where a lot of people are going to be betting. A lot of people are going to be betting these games, and all the totals are high. I'm just saying, put my tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the books are seeing something. I mean, these matchups are a bit weird. You've got divisional matchups, and you still got these higher totals. I mean, everything that we've talked about today so far is divisional, but there's a lot of divisional games this week. So that's curious to me, where you always see lower totals in those games. For this one particularly, I lean over, but the money, I mean, public and money are both on the under here, 84%, 88%. Which, yeah, I mean, the Niners look like they can steamroll any team. And now the Seahawks are coming off a barely losing the game against the Rams, right? So 17 points or whatever, 16. They didn't score a lot. Their offense doesn't necessarily look like it's back. Now they got to play the divisional Niners defense, where it's one of those, everyone owns Pete Carroll type of matchups, and McCaffrey's back, and Debo's back, and Trent Williams is back. And yes, the Niners defense played really well, but it was the Buccaneers, and the Bucs looked like they were driving a lot, and there were a lot of opportunities for the total to go over in the Bucs Niners game. Just the game script kind of felt like the Bucs had to keep scoring touchdowns, and then the Niners prevented them from scoring touchdowns. So there's a lot of I felt like the Bucs were moving the ball very easily, which I did not expect, which is why I took the under. So now it worries me to try and back another under in a Niners game where it doesn't necessarily look like their defense is playing up to their standards. And now you got a divisional game, teams that have a lot of history with each other. Geno doesn't look great. I don't know if I could back the 6.5 on the road here for the Niners. I kind of like the Seahawks. Yeah, and yes, I like all the dogs. I don't. I guess I got like all the dogs today.
I don't. I have the Niners. I locked into my early best bets article that went out last night. Be sure to check it out at happyhoursports.net. I detail a lot of why I like it, especially with the whole Debo and Trent Williams factor, they've looked like a completely different team the last 2 games. Now that they're back, and they came off their bye week a lot more rested and recovered. Brock Purdy broke a record for highest QBR, I think, since the 60s or something like that yesterday.
That's wild. That's wild.
It's insane. The Niners have beaten the Seahawks the last 3 times out.
Yeah.
So, again, you can see my reasoning for the Niners play on Happy Hour Sports, but I want to conclude the point I was making about the high totals. You know how when you go home for Thanksgiving on Wednesday night, it's when everyone gets together, goes to the local bar. That's the pros' night for drinking. I consider New Year's Eve to be the amateur night for drinking. That's when people go out that don't normally drink. You don't want to drive because there's going to be some amateur drunk drivers. There's a lot of risk in driving. I think this is betting on Thanksgiving is flip-flopped, where this is when the amateurs are going to be coming out. You're going to be sitting around having awkward conversations with your family. It's a lot of people that you haven't seen in a long time, and you're going to want to bet on it. You're going to want to bet on the game so you have at least something to talk about with them that's not awkward, and that's why the totals are higher. So I'm not going to be looking at many of these totals to go over. In fact, I really like the under in this one because I don't think the Seahawks are going to score that many points. Kenneth Walker went out last night, and I don't know if he's going to play. It doesn't seem like he's going to. Geno Smith says he might. He went back into the game and finished it out in the game that they lost. But I don't know if he does play, it's going to be not at 100%. And do you really want to back Drew Lock if he has to come back in going up against the Niners defense? I don't personally. So I'm all over the Niners here. I have them for a unit at -6.5. I thought I was getting a good number, but it has not moved as much as I thought over the last 24 hours since I placed it. But we'll see again. I mean, we'll see if that's the case when Thursday rolls around. But all 3 of these games, I lean the under just because I think that they purposely are setting a trap in Vegas by setting these totals higher than what we've typically seen this season. And all 3 are divisional games.
Oh, yeah. You're kind of convincing me on the Niners and the under. The Niners are just going to be way better, and especially with the questions at quarterback for the Seahawks, there's honestly no point to say that the Seahawks are going to score any points, especially when they only put up 16 against the Rams. So I like the under, especially with the total moving down. I think it opened at 40 or 44.5 or 44. So look to the under there. I'm not going to say I'll take it right now. Give me the under 43.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My podcast play, I don't know. I haven't had a podcast play in a while, but I'm due. That's what it means. I'm due.
I'm due.
Positive on the year, but due.
I saved at least one for the podcast, and I was thinking about writing last night, but I wanted to give a good play, which you'll be surprised about when we get there. But
okay,
it is on the Sunday slate, and we still have one more. We've got the Friday game here, so Dolphins are now all the way up to -9.5 or -10, depending on where you're betting. Taking on the New York Football Jets in New Jersey. Under is set at 40, and everyone's slamming it right now. So this one, at least, it seems like people are aware about these low totals and probably think that they're just betting against the Dolphins here. Are the Dolphins going to be able to put up 40 against this good Jets defense? We'll see what happens. The Jets defense has looked really solid. It's the only thing keeping this team alive. Tim Boyle was announced to be the official starter today for the Jets, so the Zach Wilson era is likely over.
Oh, God.
If it even was an era, more of a blip on the radar. I don't have a play for this one yet either, like the first 2 Thanksgiving games, but maybe look towards some team totals here. Because if you think that the Jets are going to play well and can kind of contain this Dolphins offense that we've seen contained against the best defenses in the league, then that team total for the Dolphins is going to be set really high with a spread that's this far apart from how small the total is. So I think that you could get some value on the team total going under if you think the Jets are going to get the stop. I don't know yet, though. I really don't know how this Dolphins team is going to perform. I need to look into it a little bit more, truthfully. Not as prepped for this game as I was for the Thanksgiving ones, truthfully.
Yeah, this is such a weird one. 10-point dogs at home, obviously with questions at quarterback just plaguing New York. Dolphins 84% of the bets, 86% of the money. Everyone wants to back the Dolphins. Everyone wants to back the under, which I don't disagree with. Like the Dolphins, the question for me with the Dolphins is their injuries, right? A-Chain got banged up again. Hill went out for a little bit. There's always been questions with Tua and Jalen Waddle, obviously. So if the Jets can leverage that, I think they can cover 10 points pretty easily, especially with what they have on defense. However, are they motivated enough to want to try and back Tim Boyle, on a Friday 3 p.m. game? It's just a weird situation and circumstance for this game. Obviously, there's only 5,000 bets, so there's really not much data saying, like, hey, there's so many people backing the Dolphins, so many people backing the under. But as of right now, I don't see any reason to not, go with either of those sides. The Dolphins have not shown that they can't cover 10-point spreads at all this year, and especially against a team like the Jets, where, yes, their defense is decent, but they just allowed however many points to the Bills, and their offense is not going to do shit, and we know that. Not to say Tim Boyle, won't be the greatest quarterback of all time, but there's a reason he's sitting behind Zach Wilson. So I lean the Dolphins in the under, but I could easily be swayed by what happens on Thanksgiving or how bets come in on Friday. It's just a weird one with 3 p.m. on a Friday. Just feels so awkward.
I'm so excited. Yeah, yeah.
That's the degenerate.
Brown liquor will have flowed the night before for Niners and Seahawks, and it's going to be like, all right, it's time to break the hangover with this Friday game. So
that's the degenerate in you. All right, let's move to Patriots -3 at Giants. We get to one of the worst games of the slate. Who thought the Patriots would be favored in a game the rest of the season? But however, they go to New York and are favored in MetLife by 3 points. 89% of the bets on the Giants, though. People love the Tommy DeVito factor. 78% of the money on the Giants. What a weird game here. Obviously, the Patriots are coming off a bye. Giants are coming off a win against the Commanders. And Zappy, I guess, is starting now. Is it official? Like, Mac Jones is
no,
sad?
Not yet. They haven't named a starter yet.
Okay, so I'll say Zappy is going to start. But in the few games that we saw from him last year, I mean, he had those flashes, Andy. I kind of want to lean Patriots, like on the road favorites here. I don't buy the Tommy DeVito story. I think the Giants just kind of showed, this is a divisional game against the Commanders, who should not be favored against anyone. The Commanders were coming back at the end and easily could have, went ahead and won that game had Sam Howell not got sacked a bunch and, threw some picks. So weird game again. I lean Patriots, not to say that I have much data to back it because it's just so ugly. The Giants' run game looked awesome against the Commanders. So they're actually good at stopping the run. One of the better teams holding defenses to below 100 yards. So if the Giants can't run the ball, Tommy DeVito's not going to put the ball in the air downfield. The Patriots can put something together. Bill Belichick against a young quarterback. Those storylines are back.
That's what I was going to say.
Right?
That's what I was going to say. Is I know the Pats have not been amazing, but we kind of ran that whole Vrabel as a dog into the ground. So it's time to revive the Belichick against a rookie QB and bring that back to life. Because I think the Giants thing was a flash in the pan. The Commanders are not very good. Like we even said it. Like I don't want to bet on the Giants because they've been so shit. You don't know what you're going to get with DeVito. But the Commanders should never have been that big of a favorite.
Right.
I don't think the Patriots should ever be a favorite, but they are going up against the Giants. Do you think this is going to be a tanking game? Like, do you think this is going to be Bill Belichick standing up for what he believes is right, and he's going to say, no, we can't tank? Because this literally has huge implications for getting a top 5 pick next year.
Well, that means we bet the under at 33.5, and we hope the game ends fucking 7-3.
I'm not opposed. I also, Zappy has not been that great either. He has only completed, I'm reading, in his 3 relief appearances, Bailey Zappy has completed just 40% of his passes. So I do think that, the Patriots are coming off a bye. I think the Giants' whole Tommy DeVito thing is a flash in the pan. And I do feel like the Pats have gotten better against the rush because they were able to stop Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. And that should have been the Colts' whole plan of attack against them in Frankfurt. But then we got the lowest scoring game of the season, 10-6, and the Colts win. So I do believe that the Patriots are good against the rush. They are number 2 in opponents' rush yards per game, and also number 9 in opponent rushing yards per game at 97.7. They're only allowing 3.4 yards per rush. So Saquon's the only thing really going if they're able to shut down DeVito. Giving them that bye week, as well as I know there's a lot of stuff swirling around in the quarterback's room. I think they'll have a very short leash on Mac. So if Mac does shit the bed early, I think that they'll put Zappy in or go all the way to Will Grier. It's going to be a gross one. It's going to be really gross, DJ, but I'm going to do it. Give me the Patriots -3. While the hook is no longer there.
I'm talking myself into it too. I kind of love it.
Yeah, I kind of love it. Because last night when I was doing my article, it was at 3.5. I was like, I can't touch this game. I don't want the hook. But now that it's at 3, oh my Lord, I really like it.
Andrew,
the matchup is there. Like the quarterback is not, but like whose quarterback situation is better? The Giants or the Pats?
The Giants are averaging, Andrew, 156.6 passing yards per game. Worst in the NFL.
Holy shit. That's really bad.
That's just terrible. There's no reason to not back the Patriots here. Why is the entire world? 3,500 bets.
It's recency bias. It's like, why is the entire world on the Commanders against the Giants last week?
Yeah.
Even though the spread was double digits, it's because they didn't believe in Tommy DeVito. Now though, like people are such bandwagons and are like, oh yeah, let me see the new shiny toy. Tommy DeVito has a good game. Oh, let's bet on him. And like the Patriots have been so shit that they forget everything else. So
yeah, this is ugly as hell, but I love the Pats.
Yeah, Pats -3. Lock it in, baby.
Okay, moving on to your boys. Bucs 2.5 in Indianapolis. 52% of the bets on the Bucs, with 95% of the money on the Colts. The money loves the Colts here. Obviously, still 2,000 bets, not even on this game. Total set of 43.5.
Yeah.
Everyone betting the over as of right now. What do you think, Andy? Alpha buy.
Yeah, so I mean, this is one that I ended up saving for the podcast. I want to know fading my Colts this season on the podcast. Let it be
Tell
known.
me you're going to fade them.
The Jaguars. I took the Jaguars -4 when they hosted the Colts back in October. DJ and I were sick as hell. We both had COVID. And I said in the podcast, I was like, there's no way the Colts it should not be this tight. And once again, I'm going to say it again. It should not be this tight. The Colts were -1 last night. Now it's up to 2.5. And everyone's betting the Colts. I guess, no, I'm not going to say that. There's only 1,000 bets on this game, like you said. The defense matches up well against Jonathan Taylor, so it's going to be tough for us to get the run going once again, which really sucks. I think that we do have a really solid matchup against some of their corners. Their corners leave a lot to be desired, but if Winfield steps up, I mean, he's been one of the best free safeties in the league, as well as some of their linebackers. I don't see why they can't stop us. It's really just the Josh Downs show right now. Michael Pittman's been pretty disappointing this season. Yeah. Josh Downs has been spectacular, but Gardner Minshew literally will not throw farther than 10 yards. Like when I watched him against the Panthers, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Why can you not throw farther than 10 yards? Like, do you not have any other tricks up your sleeve, anything more in your bag to get this going? And obviously he did not. So I think the wrong team is favored here. I think that the Bucs offense also matches up fairly well against our defense, a defense that has been letting up tons of points. We let up, how many did we let up to the Panthers? I feel like we did not look amazing defensively against the Panthers, and then the Pats are the Pats. After I literally just locked in the Pats -3, I'm going to fade my Colts here and go with the Buccaneers money line. I need to find the best odds real quick, so let's see what your analysis is.
Yeah, I love the Bucs here in this spot, despite the money clearly loving the Colts. I don't see that at all. I think this is a really tough matchup for the Colts. I think the Bucs defensive line is the only thing that's keeping them afloat defensively. Their secondary sucks. Obviously, you just talked about Gardner Minshew. The only thing that you guys want to do is run the ball. That's why Zach Moss had such a great start to the year, and now Jonathan Taylor's finally picking it back up. The only good thing, there are not many good things about the Colts defense. You look at their rush, they're one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. Bottom third in rush yards, bottom third in rush attempts, bottom third in rush touchdowns allowed, and Rachaad White finally had a decent game, it felt, yesterday against the Niners. So if he can get going and they can actually start to use play action and get Baker in these high percentage areas and opportunities where he can get the ball to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and facilitate like he's meant to be, because I still don't think he's really that bad of a quarterback. I just don't think he has any time to throw the ball. Then, that's when the Bucs can look good again, like they did in the first couple games of the season. The Bucs have really only not performed well against the best of the best in the league. The Lions, the Eagles, the Niners. They've had some other choicey games, but the Colts are not that. And I think this is a game where there's just the wrong team is favored. I don't know if I will take the money line because I like taking points, but yeah, I like the Bucs. I like the Bucs a lot.
Yeah, the Colts are coming off a bye too, so they have that in their favor. But again, I totally agree with you. I just think that the Bucs have had a tougher schedule, as well as the Colts have not been able to really contain anybody defensively. So I'm not really too worried about Baker Mayfield doing his thing and looking all right against them. I'm actually gonna go with +2.5 instead of with the money line after just recently getting burned on taking the Vikings money line instead of +2.5 last night. Still licking my wounds because of that. So I'm gonna take this, and what I don't think it's gonna come down to the spread, but just in case, it is even money right now on BetUS. So I'm cool with locking that in at +2.5 for even money for a unit.
Very nice. Another podcast play here on Monday. Let's move to Saints +1.5 in Atlanta. More teams off buys. 77% of the bets on New Orleans, 78% of the money on the Falcons. Wow. Big differential here in favor of the Falcons if you're looking towards the money, but obviously the public has been doing much better than the money this year. Oh, God. Another ugly one, but a divisional matchup. Total set at 42.5. 83% of the bets on the under, 78% of the money, giving the over a 5% sharp differential. So, I don't know. What do you even see in this game? Like, I honestly have no read, and you're gonna have to facilitate here.
Yeah. So I have a lot of reads on this one. I have under 41.5, 42.5. I can't remember what I got last night, but I put that in my early best bets article. I'll give you the reasons why. So, for me, quarterback situation very uncertain, very unstable in Atlanta. They could switch back mid-game if Desmond Ridder doesn't do it. The other thing, too, is Bijan Robinson had a good game last time out, but before that had strung together kind of 4 in a row that were very mediocre performances by his standards. After he had such a hot start to begin the season, this has not been great for him. The Saints defense has been spectacular, and the Falcons defense has been surprising. I've at least given them their props there, that they have a lot of the key matchups for the Falcons should favor them, where I think they should be able to contain Alvin Kamara. And I mean, speaking of shitty quarterback situations, like unfortunately for Derek Carr, it has not looked good thus far. Both of these teams are going to be really scrappy because this is huge for NFC South playoff implications between the Saints and the Falcons. It's going to be between those two for the division. And I do think that there's not going to be a lot of points in this game because the defense is so much better than what either of these offenses have been able to put together. It's been disgusting offensively for both these sides. Falcons are one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. I believe they're in the bottom quarter of scoring, and the Saints are averaging just north of 21 points a game. So give me the under in this one, and it seems like a lot of people agree, which is not always a bad thing when you have people backing the under.
Yeah, now that you're talking, I kind of like the under as well. When two teams are coming off a bye, it's historically really good to back the under. Just defense is preparing and a lot, more time to rest is good to see. The defensive front for the Saints is probably going to win them the game here. I would lean Saints just because I think preseason they're the better team. Put together the names on the roster, they're the better team. With a bye and more of an opportunity to win the division. I think they're a little more motivated right now than the Falcons to win this game, especially with the Falcons barely even knowing who they're throwing at quarterback. I think across the board, the Saints are just the better team. So if you can get them as a dog on the road here in this divisional matchup, it's not a bad spot, NFC South. I think the Saints are the better team overall. Not surprised, though, in these divisional type games, when there's a road dog, you're going to see a lot of the money on that, or a home dog. You're going to see a lot of the money there on the home dog. But again, only 1,000 bets. I love the under, though. I think I like the under more than I like Saints +1.5. But another ugly game.
It just depends where you're betting on it. Is because I think it's a pick 'em in some spots too.
Yep. One of those weird ones where hopefully the line doesn't come to matter. I want to get away from that though. Panthers +4 in Tennessee. Oh God, Carolina 63% of the bets, Titans 64% of the money, giving them a 27% sharp differential. These games are ugly, man.
I'm not touching this one.
Instinctively lean the Titans. It's like, why would anyone want to back whatever they see in Bryce Young? Like, no. Like,
what do you mean? Why would you want to back Will Levis? And this defense that just let up 30, like north of 30 points to the Jags.
Because the Titans are better at every single other position other than probably quarterback. Yes, Bryce Young was taken second overall against whatever round Will Levis was taken in. the Titans are just a better team than the Panthers, straight up. They're better in the trenches. The defensive line is going to destroy whatever the offensive line that the Panthers have.
DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been able to get going because Will Levis can't get him the ball.
I know Adam Thielen's definitely had a better season, but if you look at the secondary of the Panthers, I don't see anything in the Panthers defense that could stop. This is the time for the Titans to actually put points together or put drives together against a team like this.
They're not going to be able to. I have no respect for this Titans team whatsoever, because I think that the Panthers defensive line is fine, as well as they've got Luvu's solid, Brian Bird's solid. You've got enough guys that they're going to be able to stop Derrick Henry, Derek Brown, solid. And then Levis has not been able to get the ball to any of his guys. Like Hopkins has had a good season, but that good season was carryover from when he had Tannehill throwing him the ball, and he was doing a lot. He was looking a lot more solid. At the end, he had that 1-3 touchdown game in Levis's first game, and he hasn't really done shit after that. So I'm not huge on the Titans at all in this one, but also I'm not crazy. I mean, you said it too. I'm not crazy high on Bryce Young because you don't know which version of him you're going to get out there. Also the Panthers hung in there for the first half and almost 2.5 quarters with the Cowboys until the Cowboys just pulled away in a big way in the fourth.
Another pick six, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't know what version you're going to get. I just don't know if the Titans defense is going to be anywhere nearly as threatening as the Cowboys defense. I mean, the Cowboys defense is so much better than this Titans defense that just can't seem to figure anything out whatsoever.
Well, the Titans themselves average 3.5 sacks a game, where the Cowboys, albeit the best in the league, 5 sacks a game. So I think they're going to be getting similar amounts of pressure. I think the worst thing about the Titans defense is their passing, their secondary. They allow 281.5 yards per game, which is one of the worst in the league, yet that's one of the only areas that they're actually bad. And I don't trust Bryce Young, and it's only, it feels like he can only throw the ball to Adam Thielen. And if you get pressure on him, he's not going to do anything on offense. And that's what we've seen the entire season from the Panthers. Yes, they played fine, but the Cowboys are on the road, and it's basically a throwaway game for them. They're just trying to do whatever they can to get a win. So I probably will stay away because it's so ugly, but I have to lean Titans. I cannot back the Panthers on the road here.
I just talked myself into it.
You're taking the Panthers?
I didn't want anything to do with this game, but the more I look at it, I've got the PFF matchups pulled up. It doesn't really look half bad for Adam Thielen. I think Adam Thielen has some pretty solid matchups. I also think that the Panthers defense has a great matchup where they should be able to stop Derrick Henry. So give me the Panthers +4, and I think this may start to move to 3.5 because it's 3.5 in a lot of spots, but FanDuel does have +4 right now, so I will go ahead and lock that in.
You do you. I don't love it, but
it's
you
my
do
third
you.
play.
You're rolling with the plays today. Let's move into...
Yeah, I've given 3 in a row out.
Let's move into AFC North football. Beautiful Steelers -1.5. Finally, a game that feels exciting to talk about. 84% of the bets and 70% of the money. That's not on Thanksgiving, I'll say. 14% of the sharps on the Bengals. Obviously, the question here is what's going to happen to Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, and you're in the AFC North divisional game. I think the Bengals come out and win here. I think the Bengals are a better team than the Steelers. The Steelers' offense has looked abysmally slow, and while the Bengals' defense is probably the worst part of their team, it's not like Kenny Pickett is going to be throwing the ball downfield. And even Jake Browning, I think, can put up points with this offense in a divisional game. It's a bit rare for me, but I don't see the Steelers being favored on the road against the Bengals. I don't like it. I don't like the public loving that. I think this is Bengals all the way.
No, I don't want to touch this game because I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like for Cincinnati. So I'm so worried about how that's going to go. And there's nothing I can do to convince myself otherwise. I know the Steelers have been horrible, but what better way for this defense to feast and carry their weight because the offense won't than going up against a rookie QB. So if anything, I lean the under, but that total just continues to push lower and lower. So we'll see where that sits on Sunday. But I'm most likely not going to be touching this game.
It's ugly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's, aside from the Thanksgiving Day games, which aren't even that great to begin with, the slate feels so ugly. Total 34.5. backup quarterbacks here and there, large spreads, Panthers, Titans, Saints, Falcons. Oh, gee. Bucs, Colts. Just Patriots, fucking Giants. Oh, my God. The state of the NFL right now. A bit wild. But anyway, I like the Bengals. I think you're going to see a lot more money come in on Cincinnati throughout the week. I think the public's going to slam the Steelers based on the Bengals news. However, yes, the Steelers' defensive line is good, but their defense is not overall great right now. Their secondary is pretty bad, and even with Jake Browning, I think Jamar Chase can kind of feast on this banged up Steelers secondary. So I don't think they should be favored, genuinely. I think the Bengals are just a better team. Jags at Texans, another divisional matchup. Jags -1.5 on the road in Houston. 66% of the bets on the Jags, 61% of the money on the Jags, even though the sharp differential 5% towards Houston. Jags obviously coming off a massive W against the Titans, and the Texans coming off a slight win. Annoyed at that one, where they beat the Cardinals but did not cover. And the divisional matchup, the Jags obviously lost to Houston earlier in Jacksonville, so now you've got them coming into Houston. Do you think their converse is going to happen, Andy? What do you see here?
I don't know. This one screams that I really want to tease the Texans to be like a +7.5 home dog, but I'm not entirely sure just because the Jags look so good. But it was against the Titans, so I don't want to put too much stock into that. I do think that CJ Stroud bounces back. I don't think he's going to throw 3 picks in this one. That was pretty wild that we saw a slip up and he actually looked like a rookie quarterback after there was so much MVP talk heading into that game against the Cardinals. Like literally a rookie quarterback rumored as like someone who should be in the MVP conversation is so fascinating to me, but that's the type of season he's been having. Tank Dell and Nico Collins are not going to have as easy of a matchup against these really solid Jacksonville corners. But I do think that Trevor Lawrence should be able to figure out some stuff because the safety situation and middle linebacker situation for the Texans leaves a lot to be desired. So look for potentially like Christian Kirk getting going in the slot, finding some nice little passes, 5 to 10 yards down the field. And overall, though, besides like maybe looking at some player props, I don't have anything on the spread or the total.
I really lean Jags, and I usually don't like to back road favorites. However, if the Texans win this game, they're tied for the AFC South division, and I don't think the Jaguars are going to let that happen. I think having played each other already and the Jags losing, I think that gives them so much like video and tape and knowledge on how to combat and fix those issues that they had. I think the Jags were a much different team in the earlier parts of the season where they just were not clicking. And obviously over these last 7 games, excluding obviously the loss, they've looked really good, 6-1. And I think they're just a better team. I think they're going to win in the trenches. They're going to show why the Texans were thought going to be, a 3-4 win team, and just prove them wrong in their own home field. I think you're right. I think Justin Fields, CJ Stroud is going to be way better than he was against the Texans or Cardinals, but it's just a tough spot for him now facing the Jags for a second time. So I like Dougie P to get it done here on the road and find a way to stay top the division, because I don't see the Jags having any questions about winning this division based on what's happening. And in order for them to do that, they have to win this game. So that's what I like. Total set at 48.5. People loving the over. I don't hate it. I don't hate the over.
I got no thoughts on the total just because of how tight I think this game's going to be. I do think that there is potential for this one to be a bit tighter than we expect just because of the divisional knowledge of each other and having that tape from the first game.
Sure. But
I don't blame you. Both these offenses have been popping lately. I mean, the Texans are going to carry their weight. It just depends on if the Jags can find those matchups that I'm talking about where it just seems like the safety and middle linebacker matchups should favor the Jags a bit here.
Yeah, I think they just match up way better and did not execute in the first half half of the year, and now they are going to. So let's move to another divisional game. Rams +1.5 in Arizona. Cardinals 85% of the public, 88% of the money. People clearly loving the Kyler story, which I don't hate. I mean, I was not buying into it, and I think the Texans are just a better team, and they clearly showed that. The Cardinals' defense is abysmal, the Cardinals defense is why they cannot compete right now in the league. I think Kyler kind of turns that on the head in a sense of like, hey, I can move the ball, I can get around the pocket and be that number one overall type pick, which is awesome. However, their defense leaves nothing to be desired. They somehow got 3 picks in the red zone from C.J. Stroud, 1 off a batted ball, and a little bit of luck. So I'm not sure I can back the Cardinals here. I think they're still motivated to lose. I think with the sense of Matt Stafford at quarterback in L.A., I just don't get the sense that they, are ready to give up yet. And if they still have a shot at the playoffs, they're definitely going to be pushing for this one. Whereas I don't see the motivation from the Cardinals to keep winning. I think it just hurts their chances. Not necessarily trying to tank, but on offense, I think Matt Stafford's really just going to be able to pick apart this bad Cardinals defense. And I don't get the public, love for Kyler. Like everyone's, if the bets continue to come in on Kyler, I'm happy to continue to fade that because yes, he's great, but the issue is the Cardinals defense.
Yeah, let's see where the Rams move to. I want to watch where some of this line movement goes as the week goes along. We're hitting this one really early. And I think this is one that can move from a pick 'em in some spots. We're already seeing it to +1.5, like we have on the screen here. So I'm just interested to see where the line movement takes us in this one because I think that's where the value is going to present itself. But overall, not really too happy to be betting this one. I thought Matthew Stafford looked kind of subpar in the Seahawks performance, even though they were able to get the job done. I think that was more indicative of how downward the Seahawks are trending compared to how good the Rams were. I don't think the Rams are really that great. So I'm gonna sit this one out for now, but probably will bet it once we get some more information.
We're doing something we have never done in the history of the show, Andy. Talking about a game where the team has not played yet, because we're talking about the Eagles before they play here on Monday night. Bills +3.5 in Philadelphia. The good thing is I don't really think this, whether the Eagles lose or win today, it doesn't really change my opinion on them in the sense of the word. Right now, before the game is played, Chiefs-Eagles game is on Monday night. People love the Bills, 77% of the bets, 86% of the money. And I think people are probably just trying to leverage a spread that they could get 3.5 right now if the Eagles do end up winning, because if they end up winning, this line's probably 4 or 5-ish. So you're just really trying to get ahead of that. On the other side of things, I don't know if this line changes much with whatever the outcome is. However, the Eagles are just way better than the Bills, I think, at this point in the season. The Bills obviously looked really good against the Jets, but that's a divisional opponent they played and lost to already. The Eagles are really motivated to win these next couple of games because the stretch that they're in right now is really tough. Chiefs, Bills, Seahawks, Niners, Cowboys. They need to win 3 of those in order to solidify themselves as the number 1 pick. And from what I know about the Eagles and the Eagles media right now, this is a game that is a must-win at home against Buffalo. I understand why the money is pointing towards the Bills here, but anything under a field goal, I love the Eagles. I think their defense is far better. I think their offense is far better than where the Bills are at right now. And I think they just run away with it. I don't think this is close, personally. I think with where the teams are at in the season, I don't think it's close. I might be biased, but
I also lean Eagles for all the reasons that you cited, where I think you guys win a lot of the matchups. I also think the Bills defense has looked subpar. The Bills just kind of are floating, and they're just casually going through the motions. So when they get a big game like this, it's going to be night and day. I think that the Eagles, if they hit -3, I want to be all over it. So, or -3 or -2.5. So this is going to be one that I weigh on because I think it could maybe move back to open, seeing how people are already jumping on the Bills.
Yeah.
But I'm totally with you. I don't think it's necessarily a bias thing. Well, maybe, but I do lean Eagles here, but not going to bet it because who knows what's going to happen in the game tonight. Hopefully nothing, but you never know.
Yeah, just the defensive line with the injuries that the Bills have had on offense, as well as in the secondary. I don't, especially if the Eagles lose tonight. There's no chance that they lose at home to the Bills, and I'll say that on record. With the way the team has looked right now, I do not see it happening. So just really make sure you get the best of the line in this one. I understand, again, why people want to back the Bills. It's more of a leverage play, or value play, I should say. If the Eagles win tonight and beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, the line's going to skyrocket. So just keep that in mind. Browns plus 2.5 in Denver. Denver obviously coming off a win. Browns coming off a win. Both close games. I'm surprised the total's not lower.
Well, here's the thing, too. The Browns are on their backup quarterback. And I guess the Vikings are, too. But, like, the Josh Dobbs has been a different experience for the Vikings at backup quarterback where he's doing stuff that a lot of starters, the teams wish that their starters were doing, at least this season where the quarterback play has been down. But the Browns come in with, like, DTR, who has not looked amazing. Like, he looked serviceable enough to get them by and get the win against a really solid Steelers defense. But they only scored, 13 points, I think, to beat the Steelers?
13-10 or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was 13-10 final, I'm pretty sure. So now you're going into Denver, and it's the same spread as the Vikings game was on Sunday Night Football. I don't know. I think this is a little fishy. I lean Broncos here despite how good the Browns defense has been. It pains me to say that because I could totally I can totally picture it now, like Russ throwing 3 picks, and this one's and with how good the Browns defense has been. The Browns are putting up like defensive numbers similar to some of the greatest defenses in football history now, which is crazy. I'm not going to go through line by line. Like it's very well documented how well this defense has been doing since they brought in Schwartz, but I do think that I do lean Broncos here just because of the quarterback factor for the Browns and how much better the Broncos defense has looked lately. I doubted you when we talked about it on the podcast. I doubted you when we talked about it throughout the week, but you are correct. The Broncos defense has started to improve. So much so that NBC would not shut the fuck up about it last night. So,
yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say. Like the defense is just far changed. They're a top 10 defense now, and obviously they were the team that led up 70 plus to the fucking Dolphins. This is a much different team defensively and even offensively than what we saw last year and the beginning of this year. The issue for me is this Browns defense good enough to hold not so great offenses, mediocre offenses like the Broncos to 10, 15 points where, the Broncos defense slips up and Russ throws a pick and pick 6. And now you've got a team that can win games. And I do think if the Browns had a serviceable quarterback, this is a team that is miles above the AFC North. This is I'll say with the Ravens. The Ravens look really, really good as well. I liked the Broncos last night, and they bit me on the butt. However, what I want to say is the public is 0-4 back in the Broncos this season, Andy, and they're backing them here. The money is 2-6 back in the Broncos. Sharp differentials 3-6 back in the Broncos. Everything is back in the Broncos right now.
They're due. They're due. I'm not tailing them just yet. I'm going to wait until Sunday, but they're due. This is a tough one to handicap, but I still lean the Broncos just for the reasons that you cited and that I cited. I love Browns the under. For me, like
that's what I'll say.
Under's very juicy. Under's very juicy.
It's a tough game. I like what you're saying against the Broncos with the spread based on the Vikings. Exact same spread, very different situations, which is why there is value on the Broncos. However, I think this historic defense is a bit different, and the Vikings defense has its holes. Its secondary is not great, and even then, it took until like the final drive for the Broncos to actually score a touchdown. Yes, they drove the ball, but they did not. They were not able to punch it in, and I think that's a major issue for the Broncos against the Browns. And if they can't score points, the Browns can win with another 13, 14 points. So I love the under. I don't know if I can get behind Broncos yet, but we'll see what happens as the week moves on. Obviously, it's still very, very early. Okay. Another divisional game, Chiefs -9 in Vegas. Obviously, the Chiefs also have not played today. Again, another game where money is slamming the Raiders ahead of the Chiefs game in order to get ahead of a line that will probably cross 10 if the Chiefs win tonight. So 9.5 points. You don't think so?
If they lose, it'll go down.
Correct.
Like, don't you think? But if they win, then they're value.
True. I mean, that's why I don't think you bet the Chiefs here tonight at -9 because there's not much difference in 10 versus 10.5 when, your spread is whatever. I think there's more value in backing the Raiders because I think the Chiefs are going to win. So that's why I'm saying I understand the money and bets on the Raiders. I don't think this will be the same after today. However, I like the Chiefs. I don't buy the Antonio Pierce story. I don't buy the Raiders. I don't think it's great. I love the Chiefs defense, and if they, obviously we're talking about a lot of hypotheticals here, but if they lose to the Eagles tonight, I don't see them losing to the Raiders or not blowing the Raiders out. Usually Mahomes is bad against a large spread, but especially a divisional game, like, I don't know. I like the Chiefs. I like when people don't like the Chiefs, and right now I'm seeing a lot of people against the Chiefs, so I like it. That's my expert analysis for you there.
I am unsure, just the nature of the division rivalry here, that I feel that comfortable with the Chiefs with this big of a spread. Patrick Mahomes has occasionally let us down when the spread has been this big. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I know that is some stuff that we've talked about recently where he has not been phenomenal in big spreads, as well as like this spot for the Chiefs against the Raiders in a divisional matchup. I'm not huge on it, so I'm going to stay away for now. I don't know if it's going to be one that I bet or not. I think that it would not be wise for me to lock in anything before the Chiefs play in Monday Night Football tonight.
Yeah, I think we got to kind of skip over that one, especially just talk about our leans. Okay, Ravens -4 Sunday Night Football in Los Angeles. Obviously, we talk about it every time we talk about the Chargers having a home game. Not like they're going to be having much of a home field advantage. Ravens, 58% of the bets, 67% of the money. I love the Ravens. Why are the Chargers only 4.5-point dogs? The Ravens are so far better than this Chargers team, despite, the Chargers losing to the Packers and whatnot. Their defense sucks. Their offense cannot catch passes. Keenan Allen dropped the ball. We talked about Johnston dropping a possible touchdown. The Ravens are on such different planet right now when it comes to the Chargers, and they've got extra rest for this game. They need to keep winning to stay atop the AFC. I do not see the Ravens losing this game in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Ravens fans too, because it's in LA. I love saying that every time we preview a Chargers game.
It's almost like you didn't listen to me because I said that.
Well, I'm buying my Celtics tickets right now because it's 7:00. Yeah, I lean the Ravens here too, but I just be interested to see making sure that Lamar is 100%. He did get a little banged up in the game on Sunday.
Right.
But this Chargers team is just spiraling deep down, out of control, into a really dark place. Where now Brandon Staley's even speaking up and chirping the media in the press conferences. So
he needs to go too. He needs to go too.
Oh, he has to go. He that's overdue. So there's nothing you could tell me or do for me where I'm going to be betting the Chargers in this one. It'll be a Ravens play if I'm going to do anything, but I'm not locking anything in. I had everything kind of dialed in the first several games where I felt good about them, but these back half schemes are a lot tougher to handle.
There's so many road favorites that I like, and I hate that. Like, I like the Jags. I love the Ravens. This is such a difficult week because the games are so fucking ugly.
It does feel like one of those weeks where there's a lot of those shitty angles, but I've already locked in 3 of them live on the pod, so I have 5 bets already in this slate. Like, I agree with you, it's not the prettiest slate, but I do believe that there is value to be had, and I'm gonna have more bets after this podcast releases too. Like, we still have a whole week ahead of us, which feels weird. This is gonna throw me off the rest of the week that we recorded this early.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad. This is the thing for recording it early. One of the things we like to do is kind of record it way later, so a lot of our thoughts are more developed, but we're kind of going off the cuff here. We'll see what happens come Sunday, and obviously come Thursday. But let's finish off Bears +3.5 in Minnesota, finishing off a week from today. Fucking wild. 85% of the bets on the Bears, +3.5. 98% of the money on the Bears. People are not buying the Vikings Josh Dobbs story. I still don't buy it, and I got beaten because the Broncos won but didn't cover. I still don't like it. I like the Bears, Andy. I like the Bears as road divisional dogs. Like, the Vikings do not scare me. Their defense is awful, and the Bears' offense is actually decent. Like, they just went toe-to-toe with the Lions. This is not the Vikings of last year. The spread only being 3.5 is a little worrisome, and you don't even know, like, Justin Fields versus Bajent is like not even that much of a difference. But as Fields gets more and more integrated into the offense again, I think that you just kind of have to back the divisional dog and hope that they can score more points to the Vikings. Like, both defenses are not great. I think this goes over the total, 45.5, probably a shootout, and hopefully the Bears keep it close. I don't see the Vikings covering a 4-point favorite. Like they're great as dogs, but I don't like them as a favorite.
I have to like just reel in my Josh Dobbs stuff for a minute. Like I gotta chill. I want more time since we're only one day off of how well the Bears looked offensively. I want to take some more time and really see, like, was that Justin Fields? Was that the like a poor defensive job by the Lions? Because I don't know. It's still too fresh for me to really digest all that information. But it seems like everyone and their mother thinks that it was a Justin Fields thing because they are slamming the Bears here. And we have to keep in mind that even though the Vikings did choke and lose in Sunday Night Football, this team is still turning the corner, in my opinion, where I think that we are going to see them as one of the candidates that strings together a few wins here as the season closes out and gets a solid seeding in the wild card spot, because I don't think they're going to be able to pass the Lions for the division, but there is a chance that they are sitting right there in that 6th spot in the NFC, and the Bears are really far from that. So I'm starting to talk myself back into Josh Dobbs. I'm going to sit and wait is the moral of the story on this one.
Yeah.
Total's a little high for me, though. Total is a little high for a primetime game.
The total's high for a primetime, sure, and Monday nights historically go under. I mean, it's 11-1 and before tonight, so we'll see what happens tonight, which I like the under, but I like the over because both defenses are awful, especially in the air. It looks like the Bears like figure things out on offense, but their defense just sucks. And if the Bears are going to cover, it's not going to be a 13-10 game. It's going to be 40-35, and they win.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. 16 games, Andy. We got through it all. Thursday night, hopefully everyone can spend some great time with their family. Thank you for checking us out. As always, this is Sharpen the Public, the only sports betting podcast focused on leveraging public betting information so we can win more bets in the NFL. We're the only people that really track it like this. We talk about public betting, how the public does every week. We update you every week on the trends and money and sharps and all that fun stuff. So thank you for checking us out. If you have any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DJH Sports or at AndyHH Sports. We have weekly articles, NFL, CFB, NCAA, NBA, anything you name it, all sports
MMA.
betting related. MMA, anything sports betting related, we've got it. We are your guys at happyhoursports.net. Thank you again, as always.
Oh, yeah. No podcast this week for Pilsners and prelims, but we'll be back the week after as we have 3 big cards to close out the year for the UFC. Can't wait to preview those for you guys, but again, excited to take a little time off, spend some time with the family, and hope you all are too. But again, we'll be active on Twitter throughout the holidays. I know I will be, so stay tuned. Make sure to follow us at Deej HH Sports and at Andy HH Sports, because we'll be tweeting out plays for Thanksgiving as well as for the Black Friday and Sunday games. So can't wait, man. It's going to be nice to be home and relax for a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Like I did last year, I'll have a Thanksgiving Day article as well as a Sunday article. So expect 2 plays or posts from me this week, always with all my plays tracked as I do every week. So you can check all that stuff out on happyhoursports.net. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Please subscribe to the channel as we continue to grow here. We're getting a few comments here and there, so appreciate you guys all coming out and supporting us. And yeah, we appreciate it as always. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your family. But we will see you in the next one.
Peace, guys. The boys bet better with beer.